Keynote here. Have some amazing folks on the stage and folks that I respect in the security industry and that have just given everything to making this industry better. And I thought it would be awesome to have a panel together with these folks. And they've been frequent Derbyconers for years and years and years and help out and do a lot of great stuff for the industry. So I wanted to create an open forum. And so as part of this, I'll start off with the standard introductions and things that we do.
You got ice?
I think... Don't give it to me. Oh, he wants a V8?
Yeah, V8, please.
She'll take the Smirnoff Ice, I'm sure.
Just thinking. She goes.
Wanted to start off with a great opening note to the conference. And so what I'd like to do is we'll do introductions. Woo! We'll do introductions, and then I'd like to open it up to the audience for questions as well. And what we'd like to do is if you're new to information security or you have any questions specifically, it would be awesome to hear from you about their experiences and what they've done. Again, all about Derbycon is really our experiences that we share with one another and what we've done and the research that we've done. And all three of these folks here have just done an absolute amazing amount of contributions to the industry. So, Lesley, you want to kick it off and do a little intro?
Sure. So, hi everybody. I'm Lesley Carhart, otherwise known as Hacks for Pancakes.
So.
I do. I like all food. Like, I haven't met many foods I don't like. I like all foods. Whatever. So Dave said he'd like me to give a little backstory on how I got into InfoSec, and I have the most prototypical and unrealistic story ever. So I apologize. I hate talking about how I got into security because it's not the standard. Like, people do not follow my track typically. I grew up on a farm, and we didn't have, it's a farm. We didn't have a lot of money or a lot of people around or anything. And my dad had the good fortune of, when I was about 6 or 7, he was like, I need to organize our purchases for the farm better. And so he went out and he bought a 286 Dell with DOS and Windows 2.1. And yes, I posted the receipt for that because he kept it one time. It was very, very amusing to read the $7,000 receipt for that. Yeah, you had to take out a lease. You had to pay it off in yearly, monthly installments for years, yeah. So he bought this computer, and suddenly I had something to do. And yeah, instead of, digging holes in the farm and pulling weeds and stuff. So when I was 7 or 8, I learned how to program because, there was no games on the computer, so I guess I'd better make my own games. And also my dad tried to keep me from doing things on the computer, so I had to undo all his batch scripts, which kept me in, userland. So I spent my childhood coding. I got my first gig as a developer at 15, and then I've been doing IT pretty dedicated ever since, in a lot of different spaces, from aviation electronics to telecom to now security, and now I'm in ICS security specifically. So I kind of started early on, and that's not necessarily like a normal story. Like, you hear about the people starting super young, and it can be a little intimidating, but out of the people I talk to in security and the people I meet, my story is very, very rare. Like, most of the people I talk to are like, yeah, I was a bartender until I was 26, and then I decided I wanted to be a computer hacker. And I'm like, that's awesome. More power to you. I'm glad that you've had a more colorful life than mine. But yeah, it's been a cool ride.
So my name is John Strand, and I got started in computer security at the Department of Interior's. It was Cobell versus Norton, Babbitt, Cobell versus Department of Interior, and got involved in computer security there and worked through that massive lawsuit.
No comment.
No comment. I'm not going to tell that part of the story.
Thank you.
I won't, even though it is public record.
No comment.
No comment. But I got started there, and it was amazing because I got started on a network that was completely shut off from the internet because of a court order.
No comment.
And I had a full enterprise environment to work with and break, and I had a blank check. So they were like, oh, go ahead.
No comment.
So what had happened is a judge had hired a bunch of hackers to break into the Department of Interior and see if they could write checks. And they did. And they basically brought me on to help make that better. And so I had 9-10 months of being able to break Active Directory, do whatever I wanted, and buy whatever technology I wanted. And everybody else in the organization spent all of their time playing Total Annihilation. I don't know if you guys remember that real-time strategy game. It's a great game, but they had tournaments every day, and I decided to get a SAN cert. I got GCIH. I actually got my CISSP because that was important at the time. And now we'll get to a part where Ed can comment. Whenever I started working with the SANS Institute as an instructor, I got to TA for this gentleman. And we went out to, what was the name of the restaurant out in...
I don't remember. He was in San Diego.
It was it's Sally's now.
Yeah, whatever it was called.
I can't remember what it was. It was like a
Grand
cafeteria,
Hyatt, right?
Grand Hyatt, Manchester Grand Hyatt. TAing for Ed, and Ed sits down, and he's like, I want to buy you dinner. Are you drinking? I'm like, yeah, I'll have a beer. So he gets me a beer. I drink it, and we start talking about computer security, and he's like, would you like another beer? And these were not small beers, right? So we got like 3 in, and he goes, would you like to take the InGuardians interview exam? I'm like, what? So I'm kind of drunk at this point, and the first question that he asked, I think it was, you send a packet into something, and it comes back with port unreachable.
UDP packet in, ICMP port unreachable back.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, the only thing I know that does that is IP tables, because I was working with that. And I'm like, was that the right answer? And he's like, it doesn't matter. The right answer doesn't matter. Basically, how you think through things is how it matters. And at the end of that dinner, he said, good night, John. Sleep well, for I very likely might kill you in the morning. That was weird. Yeah. That's how
it's good times.
People see us sometimes like, why does Ed always threaten to kill you? And then I eventually took over 504 from Ed, and Ed moved on to amazing stuff at CounterHack and pen test curriculum lead and 560 and all kinds of cool things. But that's the quick, abbreviated way. And kind of on your story, I like, it's kind of this weird route. And in security, I think the best story is there's no straight paths to get into security, and there sure as hell are none when you arrive. So.
Amen. So good, so good. So my name is Ed Skoudis. Yep. Hey, John. Those were awesome stories. Thank you for sharing. My name is Ed. I'm a hacker, and I have a team called CounterHack. We do a thing called Holiday Hack Challenge every year. I don't know if anybody's here seen. Yeah, that's cool.
And how much does that cost, Ed?
Well, the price of Holiday Hack Challenge is $0. How much does it cost?
No, for that. Not you. I don't want to know that.
Yes, it's a tremendous amount of effort. My whole team actually just met all day yesterday working, for Santa Claus, trying to get Holiday Hack Challenge 2018 move forward. We'll be launching second week of December or so. But I got my start. I was a teenage hacker. I don't want to date myself, but anybody here ever have a VIC-20? Back in the day? Yes, right? So I went to Kmart with my dad. I had saved $100 to buy a Timex Sinclair 1000. Anybody here have a Timex Sinclair 1000? It had a little membrane keyboard and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't the greatest computer, no offense, Ben, sorry. Yeah, it's plastic. But then there was this VIC-20, which was awesome, and William Shatner was advertising for it, so this was like the dream computer. It was twice the price. So my dad, he's an auto worker, and I went there with my $100, and I'm looking at this VIC-20, and I can afford the Timex Sinclair 1000, and my dad said to me, I'll spot you the extra $100 so you can get the better computer. And I told my dad, I said, that's the best $100 you ever spent, dude. I mean, that's like amazing. So anyway, I went on the BBS scene back in the day, and I remember I had an account at CompuServe. Anybody CompuServe? I got a bill in the mail. It was $20. Now, I was a young teenage kid. You get a $20 bill in the mail. I don't got $20. So what do? Well, of course you hide the bill. That will fix the problem, right? They sent another one, and then a collections agency. Oh my gosh. So anyway, that's how I kind of got my start. I then went to college, got out, and started doing incident response for the phone companies. And from incident response, we saw how they were hacking the phone companies back in the day. So we set up a pen test capability. Let's apply the hacks that we're learning from the bad guys. It's offense informs defense right there. And started doing that for the phone companies, then started doing it for the big banks, then started doing it for the military. And here I am today. I decided about 10 years ago that this trying to balance my life between offense and defense was just too hard. I'm not smart enough to do offense and defense and be really good at both. So I started focusing more on the offense. That's 10 years now, and I'm very happy for having done that. No offense to my defensive brethren and sisters, that's wonderful, but I like the offensive side.
So one common theme that I see with the three of you is that it's not just a career for you, but it's also a passion. And it's a testament because you're always responding to people, you're always helping out people, you're getting new information out there, whether it's building a company and using that company to be able to contribute back to the community. What drives the three of you to give back to the community and to kind of progress it forward? Because when I think of people that are community driven and that focus on that, I think of the three of you. So how does that impact your life, and what drives you to do that? Because I think it's an important thing that, for me, security isn't just going home and doing a job. It's the people that make the big difference in this community and are changing the industry for the better. So what drives the three of you?
Nobody ever helped me. It's so depressing. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the depressing one here, but nobody ever helped me. When I really wanted to get into forensics, I got rejected from, oh my God, who's ever been rejected at a job interview for a job they really, really wanted? Anybody? A couple people, few people? Yeah, I've been rejected from a lot of interviews in my life, especially when I was young in my career. And I desperately wanted to do computer forensics, really wanted to do it. And I was on my own. You know, I'd call like all the police departments that had forensics departments, and I'd be like, can I intern? Can I shadow? I'll do it for no pay. And they're like, nah, go away, crazy woman. But yeah, I mean, I had a really hard time breaking into the fields and the niches that I wanted to get into. Like, it didn't matter how much I studied on my own time. Some of that stuff you have to have hands-on to get a job. So I made this conscious decision that I was going to do my best to not have that happen to anybody else. So I've tried to be out there and remain out there and be helpful and try to get other people the help that I didn't have to get into the field, because that's BS. Nobody should be really intrigued by this field and doing stuff on their own time and just be blocked by people not listening to them or not wanting to give them a hand up.
So I kind of want to echo the sentiment of whenever you started out, like, was it 90s and stuff? Like
90s, yeah.
80s, 90s, in security, right? And especially in this area, just to be blunt, years ago, the people in this community initially were assholes. Yeah. Sorry, they were. It was an elitist group that you had to prove your value and prove your worth to actually be allowed in the front door, and I hated that. And that's absolute garbage. And still to this day, you know, whenever I'm working with someone, I don't care. The first time they fire up Nmap in a class that I'm teaching, and they're like, oh my God, this will allow me to see all the ports that are open, like on this computer system? Yes, and that excitement is like a drug. And I keep going back for hits. You know, it's not about trying to impress other wizards. I got tired of that crap a long time ago. But it's about trying to help people get to that first light bulb point and not have to go through the same crap that I went through in the security community, in particular back in like the 90s and the early 2000s.
Awesome. So, I mean, fundamentally, for me, I hate computers. They really kind of suck. They're inhuman, they're impersonal, I don't like them. That's why I love hacking them so much, right? You manipulate that damn machine that never does what you want it to do, except for that one time when your hack works, and then you're happy. My point is, I hate computers, but people. Relationships with people are fundamentally all that really matters. That's really all you got at the end of the day. And you can build those relationships, and building them in this community. It's a wonderful community. The information security space. So I mean, that's why I want to be part of this community. I want to help as many people as I can. I've been so fortunate, so blessed over the last 25 years in this industry. I want to share it with others. The other thing is, I'm an instructor for the SANS Institute. I didn't mention that before, but it's kind of baked into the DNA of SANS to support the community and give back and share with the community. So SANS has, supported me in that and helped me to try to help more people.
That's awesome. Before I open up to questions, so think of a question and raise your hand here in just a second. But I wanted to offer up one thing to each of you. Name a time in your career where you just failed hard. Embarrassing failure.
Oh my God.
Because we all do it. We all fail. Yes. So many.
Oh man.
We all fail, and I didn't pre-send them any of these questions, so they have to think off the cuff. And the reason I like to do this one is we all fail at what we do in our careers, and I think it's the drive that gets you past that makes a big difference. So, who wants to take the first question of when you failed miserably in your career? And yeah, I got this.
Okay, this hurt really badly, and I was invited to be on a panel at Georgetown.
At Derbycon? Oh.
Yeah, really.
The story is actually today.
It was at Georgetown Law School, right? And what they wanted to do was a mock panel of a company that had gotten hacked. And it was a bunch of lawyers and PR people and me. I was the technical guy. And there was this attack scenario that unfolded with about 300-400 people in the audience. And it all kept coming back to me. And I mean, I was a disaster, quite honestly. Because the lawyers and the PR people pounced. You technical people need to solve this. You fix this. And I was flabbergasted. It hurt. It was like a punch in the gut. I went home and was just quiet for about 2 or 3 days. That was a tough one. So, but it did make me understand that you got to be able to talk to the lawyers. You got to be able to talk to the PR people. As a technical person, communicate with them on their terms. I doubled down on trying to better understand and have the capability to do that. And I think all technical InfoSec people will be better for that kind of thing. Talking to the C-suite, CISOs, CEOs, et cetera, the board, that helps us all out. But I learned that the hard way. It was like a punch in the face. Punch in the face. Everyone applause.
Clap in the face.
That's not punching it in the face.
Yes, thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
And you're better for it. So I was a telecom tech when I was like 23, 24, and I'd go out and I'd fix routers, switches, stuff like that. And we had a customer in like the dead of winter, maybe January, February, in the middle of the Arctic Circle in Canada, whose internet was down. And so I get sent out there, and it's like we've been trying to fix this circuit for them for like 3 days, and they're really mad. They have no other connectivity out there, no phone lines, no cell service, anything. It's the Arctic Circle, middle of nowhere in a mine. And I finally say, just send me. I'll go fix it. We can't get a tech to go out there. Nobody's crazy enough to go across the ice sheet and go up there. And I'm like, I'll go. Sounds fun. All right, let's do it. So they give me a laptop and they give me like some paperwork, and I rush out the door. And this is a story about preparation and checking your tools. So I get on the plane, I go to Canada, and don't have the right paperwork to go through customs, and get held there for like 12 hours, and finally make it to my turboprop plane that's going to take me across the ice sheet up to this little mining town in the middle of nowhere in northern Canada. And so I got my router under my arm, and like a backpack, I got my router in my backpack, and I'm ready to do this. This is going to be awesome. Little turboprop plane, it's going to be nice and shaky, it's going to be real fun. And so I go up there, and it's, of course, the dead of winter in the Arctic Circle, there's no daylight, so it's pitch black. Land on the runway, and there's a shack. That's all there is. And I got no cell service, there's no taxis, so I hitchhike with the Bell Canada guy. Thank you, Bell Canada, they were so nice. And the traveling doctor to the mine. And, I think I'm going to die the whole time, but all right, it's fun. Got my router under my arm. And I get to the mine, and they are mad, man. They haven't had internet in like 5 days now, and they have no other way to communicate with the outside world, pretty much, except for like one sat phone. And I'm like, I got this. I got my router under my arm. It's getting more beat up as I go through the little plane and the hitchhiking and stuff. And so I get into their very dirty mine, go down there, go to the telecom closet, plug in the router, and I'm like, okay, I got to configure it with their gateway IP address and stuff. Plug in my USB to serial adapter to connect, because this is back in the days where Cisco devices had serial ports, console ports, and my USB to serial adapter doesn't work. I never checked it before I got on all of these forms of transportation to get out there. So now I'm in a telecom closet in the dead of winter in the middle of Canada, surrounded by ice sheets, with an angry crew of miners and no way to configure the router. And I think I'm going to die. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I look around the room and I see some boxes of computer parts and I'm like, I can build a server. So I'm in this telecom closet, like hoping they don't come in and look at what I'm doing as I'm building like a Windows 2000 server so that I can connect directly to a console port, so I don't have to use the USB to serial adapter. So yeah, I spent like an hour building a server in a dusty telecom closet in the mine because I forgot to check my equipment. And thankfully I wasn't murdered by angry miners, but that was a close shave because if I had not had those components sitting there, I don't know what would have happened. I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. All right, next story.
So the first time I ever wrote a buffer overflow 0-day for an application was when I was doing work at the Department of Defense. And I had started working at Department of Interior doing defensive things, and I thought, hey, it would be really, really easy just to switch over and do offensive. They're like, hey, we need to test this. We need someone to get in. So I got the app, got it loaded on my local system, and I'm following like all the instructions that you can find online on how to write a buffer overflow, the ELF1 paper and all that. And, I hit enter, and nothing happens. So I go back and I reconfigure it. Back then it was all like janky shellcode that you pull off of really weird websites with like angry flaming goat porn, and then here's shellcode. And you just pull it down. It's like, what does this do? Well, it opens up a backdoor port on 4444. It's like, how come it's like 500 lines long? Trust it. By the way, look at the flaming porn goats. So I pull this stuff down, and so I got the return pointer and everything, so that was my payload. And I try to change the return pointer, and then it's a segmentation fault. And then I edit it again, and nothing happens. And then I edit again, segmentation fault, and edit again, and I just can't get the damn thing to work. And it's like 48 hours of fighting this. And I was working pretty much straight through because we had a very, very, very short window that we were allowed to do testing on this. And this clearly had a buffer overflow. This is way back when buffer overflows were way easy to write, or so I thought, anyway. Finally, I'm at the point of tears. I hit enter, nothing happens, and I put my head down on my keyboard, and I'm crying, and I look up at the screen, and it says, cannot find file or command specified. What the hell? And I type ls and it lists out the directory contents. Every time it did not work. I was expecting it to give me like a pound prompt or a $sign or some kind of indication like, congratulations, John, you just wrote your first exploit, stars and unicorns. It's a shell. It's just going to return nothing, right? But that was incredibly difficult to get through, and I had failed, and I had lots and lots of people, well, this guy clearly doesn't know what the hell he's talking about at all. He says he's a hacker, and yeah, clearly I wasn't. And I realized at that point that I had a hell of a lot more to learn about everything, but that was painful. So,
that's awesome. Do you have any questions from the audience? One right here.
Yes, good morning. So you guys all talk about offense now, and that's pretty new, I think, as we all think about offense and what we can do with that. But as not myself, but as young people getting into security, what advice would you give them? Because defense was pretty obvious. You have bad guys, so we need to learn how to defend against bad guys. But offense is not so obvious, and you have this whole what's cool and bug bounty, and I can make 6 figures as a teenager now doing cool stuff. And is that really a career? Is that really the path they should take? What's your thoughts on that, please?
Bug bounty work is hard. It's really hard work, and it's hit or miss. You really have to be dedicated. You really have to know what you're doing. And, for a lot of people around the world where they don't have security communities like this, that's their only option. They have to get into that space because it's remote work and they can do it independently. And that's kind of sad because, if you don't find a bug that month or that week, you might not eat. So it's a great career if you're on top of the field and you are 100%, 110% dedicated to it. But yeah, it's not a magic career that you're going to make 6 figures in unless you are the cream of the crop or really fortunate. So it's awesome if you want to get into it, but understand the lifestyle that goes along with that. And just a note on the blue team comment. both fields are really interrelated. You have to be able to do both. No matter whether you're red team, blue team, pen tester, incident responder, you got to be able to do a little bit of both. I don't really believe in the purple team thing. You cannot know every minutia detail of both of those things or every niche in security, but you need to have like a little fundamental knowledge of both sides to really do well at either side. So, my thoughts.
So, somebody starting out in this field, I would not say go whole hog bug bounty. Play around, that's good. You might get lucky, you might find something. But for a career, so many organizations, government agencies, commercial companies, military organizations need people. So that somebody's just saying, hey, I want to take my skill set that I'm still developing and just focus on bug bounty, I think that's probably not the best way to go. But dabbling in that, what I would advise a young person starting out in this space to do is build yourself a lab. You got to have a lab. You got to practice. Hands-on skills are vital. And then pick an area to zoom deep on, whatever that area might be. I remember when I first started at InfoSec, I decided firewalls was my thing. I wanted to learn everything I could about firewalls. I wanted to be the firewall person for Belcor, was the company I was working for at the time. And I just zoomed deep in that. And then, I could do some pretty good stuff in firewalls. But I have the attention span of a gnat. So within about 8 months, I said, okay, now it's Java security, because Java was like something that people thought was going to be good. So I spent about a year doing Java security, and then just bumping from thing to thing to thing. Like a couple years ago, I got really into IoT stuff and did a bunch of hacks of that and presented at Derbycon. So pick an area and just go really deep. Build your skills there. Start blogging. Start writing other things. John mentioned earlier that this industry sometimes gets into this place of being wizards trying to impress wizards, and there'll be young people who say, "Well, I don't have anything to blog about." If you go deep in a given technology, you're going to be helping people who have less depth than you do in that given thing just by writing blogs. One of the most depressing things, I think John and Lesley probably see this a lot. I know Josh Wright, one of my buddies, sees this, is we'll go deep on some technology, learn everything we can about it. And then our attention span moves to something else. You probably see this too, Dave. We work on something else. 5 years later, we have a problem that was based on the technology we were working on 5 years ago, but we stopped because we focused on something else. And then you do your Google search looking for the state of the art in the thing you were working on 5 years ago, and no one moved forward with it. And it's like, oh. So there's a lot of little threads you can pick up from stuff that people like Dave or Lesley or John were working on a couple years ago, and they wrote a cool blog article about it, and then, well, here's a chance for you to engage. That would be so cool.
So I've actually done 2 webcasts, but it's really the same thing. It's the 5-year plan on information security. And it was designed for people that were in college that wanted to get into information security. And I don't start out by saying, learn how to hack. You'd have to know the fundamentals. You cannot be effective in this field if you do not understand networks, if you do not understand operating systems, if you do not understand some core coding language, whatever language you want to choose, just find something. After you get those fundamentals in place, and by the way, learning those fundamentals, you can absolutely go deep into the operating systems and deep into a language, but you need to have that. I see far too many people, especially with university programs, where the whole university program is, we're going to jump straight into Metasploit. And it's like, yeah, no, let's not do that. Because think about just using a Metasploit exploit on something, how many core things that exploit relies on. And if you don't understand those things and it doesn't work, well, then you're not going to have any clue at all what did or did not happen. And then you'll find yourself crying on a keyboard. So,
you talking from experience? I think to sum up what the three of them have said is that finding something that you like to do and going deep into that. When I first got into the security industry, I didn't know well, let's talk real quick about high school. This is not about me, but in high school, I failed out of high school because I didn't like high school, and I went into the military. And I found my niche in wireless. Wireless was my favorite thing at the time, and when it was awesome to crack web encryption at the time, right, which is super hard to do. And at the time, it was super kind of hard. You had to get like a whole bunch of packets and stuff. Now it's like super easy. But loved wireless. I loved RF, and that's where I homed in all my skills in because I enjoyed it. I went home and I played with spectrum analyzers, and I was looking at what was going on, and I really started to find a lot of stuff there. And then I built off of that. And I would say some of the strongest offensive people that I see are people that started off in defense. Systems administrators, developers, those traits make you so valuable because you understand how to set those systems up that allows you to flip that switch and say, okay, I know how this sysadmin set up this SQL database or how this web application is structured. The person that runs our CTF here at Derbycon, Scott White. Scott White was a developer for a furniture store. And Scott is one of the best web application security people I've ever seen because he understands how bad his code was when he was writing all the code for the furniture store. And that's what makes security unique. And I think on the offensive side, to share the three of these folks here is that you find something you like and you make it your passion. Ed, I think last year you were talking about how you built the Jarvis system and how your home is all smart and you basically can communicate and talk to. That's exciting for you. You go home and you enjoy doing that. Making it your hobby of things that you enjoy to do and wanting to come to work and wanting to learn new things, that passion and that drive, using a Metasploit module, tearing apart that Metasploit module to figure out how it works, and the underlying components that make that work is what drives us in the security space. So to emphasize, find that niche, dive down deep into it as deep as you can, write blogs and share knowledge. That's super important. The first tool I ever wrote, which was one of the most popular tools that I ever wrote, was called Fast Track. And the first part of Fast Track was it automated Metasploit's DB Autopwn. And so you could type in a range, and it was a Python script that would go through and start exploiting systems and smashing things. It was horrible, right? It's like, why would you want to do that? But people didn't know how to even use Metasploit, so they just used a tool that would point it to it and do it, and it solved the need at that time. So even the simplistic ones that you can do out there can make a big difference, and just kind of building up on that. My first program was basically try accept blocks. There was like 7,000 try accept blocks. It was like, try this. If it bombs out, just keep going. If it bombs out, just keep going. Something's going to happen. It'll work eventually, right? And then eventually you start to learn a little bit more about programming and figure out how things are working, and it really helps out a lot. So I appreciate that. Any other questions that we have? Questions? Got one here.
So as people mature in this industry, I mean, it's wonderful to tell people how to get in and how to be beginners. And I was there 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I really appreciated the help. And look at me now, I'm actually at an intermediate level. Now I'm in compliance, and I think I can call Dave for mentorship, and I have enough moxie that I thought that I could probably even ask you folks. I think you know who I am enough, and it doesn't. Okay, good. That's reassuring. I'll take it. But the question is not, I'm about as bashful as a freight train, and I can do that kind of thing. How do you get people who are on the introverted side of the spectrum, or even not, who are mid-level in their career, who need mentorship? Because not everyone's going to be a stellar person as you, and we don't need to be, thank God. You know, there's people who just have to do the grunt work. I do compliance, so I consider myself blue team Sherpa. I tell people what to do. But how do you get people like me, or people who are on the defense side, or people who are mid-level in their career, to get the mentorship, because there's only so many superstars?
Okay, that's a hard question.
Have you heard of the InfoSec Mentor Project? First of all, it's a wonderful project out there. Has anybody heard of that InfoSec Mentor Project? It's a website. You can just, I apologize, I don't have it handy. I don't have slides or anything, but if you Google that, you'll get to a page where you can basically sign up at any point in your career and talk about what skills you want to grow and what skills you want to share with other people. And you're basically signing up as a mentor and a mentee in whatever subject areas you choose. And you can find a mentor even if you're mid-level, advanced level in your career, and you want to grow a certain skill set that you're not familiar with. And then you can also sign up as a mentor in the areas that you're really comfortable with. So that's out there. That's a resource. You've already done a good thing by being at Derbycon, so that's good job, guys. This is not for newcomers. It's for newcomers, but it's also for intermediate people. It's for people who have been in this field for 20, 30 years. It's for everybody. So don't feel like, oh, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. I can't seek out mentorship, because the secret is none of us are ever going to know everything about InfoSec. We're going to know our niche. We're going to, Ed talked about how you drill down into something that you really love. That's what all of us do, especially as we get more advanced in our career. And once we stop being like the security operations or the pen test intern generalist, we start focusing on a certain area. So we can't know everything. That's just not possible. And I think a lot of us feel like imposters because we're like, oh my God, I know everything about XYZ niche in blue team or red team, but there's this niche over here in the opposite side that I don't know much about at all. So where am I going to survive in this career? You know, that's all of us. I mean, like, raise your hand if you've ever felt like that. If you've ever thought about another niche in security and you've been like, oh my God, I don't know about this one thing. Yeah, it's everybody's raising their hand. So don't feel intimidated by that. Like, you can always seek mentorship. You can always learn about another area of security. That's fine. Everybody does that.
So that's a hard question. John turned to me as you're asking your question. So that's a hard one, because we get the question all the time of how does somebody new get into this? But I haven't had this question before. Years ago, Atlas came to me and said, I want you to be my mentor. No one had asked me that before. And I'm like, okay. And this was like 15 years ago. And to this day, I still kind of mentor Atlas. But starting about 10 years ago, Atlas started mentoring other people. And I remember Mike Poore, my buddy Mike, turned to me. He's like, you have grand mentees now, right? So the point is, though, I get asked about once or twice a year from somebody to mentor them. And, you know, I'm looking for certain qualities because I want to invest some time in this. And I accept these requests, but it's almost always on the mentee to come to me and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. You know, if you say, hey, Ed, will you be my mentor? I might say, yes, okay. But then it's kind of on you, the mentee, to kind of say, hey, Ed, once a quarter, why don't we get on the phone? Or, hey, you're going to be at Derbycon, let's have him. So you kind of have to push your mentor on that. I mean, maybe other mentors are better than I am, and they'll be proactive. I got so many other things going on. But I do have some really good mentee-mentor relationships. Now, you brought up the point of being introverted. And believe it or not, I'm kind of introverted. People say, you know, I can't believe that. You're up there, you talk, you do this, you do that. Yeah, a lot of the people that you'll see presenting at conferences that are way out there, maybe wearing their underwear, I don't know. You know, or, you know, SANS instructors or instructors at Black Hat and stuff. It turns out that at their very core, they're actually kind of introverted. They need some time by themselves and such. You might be surprised at that, maybe not. But a lot of us are kind of introverted. This is going to sound maybe bad or even harsh. I'm introverted. You fake it till you make it. You pretend you're not introverted, and you reach out to that person that you want to be your mentor, and just try it. And Lesley mentioned rejection earlier. I mean, rejection happens. That's okay. Find another mentor. There's plenty of people in this industry that are moving forward and such. Be good to your mentor. That'll help you get more attention from your mentor, right? Be supportive. But yeah, so I understand you're introverted. Still try to reach out. There's a lot of really good people in this industry presenting at this event that I think would be amazing mentors and probably aren't quite yet. So think about that. Be thoughtful and pick 2 or 3 and reach out to them.
So my answer is going to be a little bit harsh. Whenever I look at people, right? If you're looking for someone to be a mentee in the mentor-mentee relationship, I am not a big fan of like formalized mentor-mentee things. I'm just not. I don't think it works generally. However, one of the traits that I've noticed for a lot of the people that are, like you mentioned, at a certain level, is we kind of see each other earlier in our careers. And whenever I see someone that is coming up, that is actively sharing with the community, that is actively out there, that is giving presentations and, you know, doing webcasts, blogs, whatever, releasing tools, that's not somebody I'm like, I'm going to mentee that person. That's someone I want to hang out with. So I remember Dave, years ago before TrustedSec, I remember me and Paul were sitting around having dinner at RSA, and Dave was just someone that was releasing awesome tools and doing awesome things in the community. You're like, we want to hang out. I want to get to know this person. Hanging out with Ed over the years, it's funny, I had someone say, it's got to be amazing to go out to dinner with like you and Ed. I'm like, really, it's not. It's usually at the end of the day after teaching.
Food is amazing. The food is amazing.
But Ed and I will sit for an hour and not talk to each other at a conference, and it's glorious because we don't have to. But these are people that are our friends. We see each other in the community, and eventually you're like Furbies. It's like you're sharing, hey, I'm sharing too, let's hang out. That's how that happens organically. So if you want to be a mentee, then you have to start being a mentor, even at the lowest level. So if there's anyone in this room and your attitude is, well, I've got to dim the lights of others around me so I look brighter at work or at a conference, and I've got to one-up people, and I've got to try to make myself brighter, it's not going to work, because we see that, and that's garbage. But if you're someone, and I'm walking through the hallway, and you're sitting there on someone's computer explaining how to run even a most basic program, I notice. Dave notices. Ed notices, and I'm sure you notice too, right? You see those people that are actually actively trying to help other people. Be that person. Start helping other people, and the people that are the super rock stars, they'll notice, and they will start, I want to hang out with that person. And we want to bring that into the community. I know that that's kind of harsh, but that's what I think works the best.
That's good. That's awesome. Really, really good. Point of clarification. Did you say we're like Furbies?
Yeah.
He did
Okay.
say that.
No comment.
Great question.
Yeah, can I just add one thing? Like, I totally agree with him. Sometimes I'll get a DM out of the blue from Twitter, and it'll be like, can you mentor me? I'm like, about what? Like, so please be more specific. Like, it's not like this magic thing, like, oh my God, the clouds have parted, there's light shining from the sky, and we're mentor and mentee now. It's like, ask me a question. What would you like help with,
Yep. Yeah, I think to emphasize everything they said, whenever I get asked that same question, I'll usually give them a task. And it'll be like, hey, go and try and learn this, and then come back to me with what you have learned from that exercise to show that drive and passion. So a good example, the first question I'll ever ask somebody is like, hey, I want to get into information security. What do I do? I'm like, well, what do you like to do first? What do you enjoy doing? So come back with that answer first, and then I'll start to look at that and tell me why you think that that's a great position for you, whether it's web apps or forensics or ICS or whatever it ends up being. Those are things that you need a specialization or focus in to go in that deep, and I think you'll see it as a common theme. Even if we're in our mid-careers, I have folks that are as a systems administrator for 15 years and they want to get into security. How do you make that bridge and that gap? Well, guess what? You have to do some learning first. You have to figure out some stuff first and come back to me when you do that to show that you have that drive and passion. I think that's the big thing there. So I appreciate the answers. That's awesome. Anybody have any questions? Got one here. Awesome. You got one there too?
What is your biggest career regret?
Ooh, wow.
Bum, bum, bum.
When did this turn into a job interview?
What do I get if I do this question right? If you had asked me that 5 years ago, my answer would have been different, because it's always easy to look back and been like, I would have liked to have done some law enforcement forensic work, catching people who are doing child porn, stuff like that, really important stuff. I would have loved to have been a part of that and really helped the community by doing that. But it didn't work out like that, and that's okay. Now, 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, I don't have regrets about that, because life never turns out the way you expect. I'm happy where I'm at right now. I'm doing ICS security, blue team, and I'm protecting critical infrastructure, and that's really, really important stuff. And it's been like a series of weird, random events and tiny decisions that have gotten me there. Like, it's like, did you turn left? Did you turn right? That kind of thing. Like, if you're sitting there right now going, well, I could have done this and that if I had made a different decision 5 years ago, just be more chill with it. Like, you can't go back and change things. You're where you are now, and just think about what you want to do in the future. Life is never going to turn out the way you expect. That's fine. And, just concentrate on the future.
I'm still thinking. You go.
Okay. So, this is maybe very personal, but whatever. You asked the question, so I'll give you the answer. I wish I had traveled less when my kids were little. I traveled a lot. I was teaching 15 stanzas. I was teaching 15 stanzas per year, doing RSA, doing DEF CON, it's a lot of conference events. I tried to carve out time at home. But work-life balance is something to think really hard about. When my daughter turned maybe 10, I scaled back to 12 times a year for SANS, right? But yeah, traveling less when your kids are say 0 to 10, I think, is a pretty darn good idea. They start getting older, they want to do their own things, they want to be with their friends, maybe you have more opportunity to travel then. Life is just kind of weird that way. When your career, when you can spend the time and build things up, that's often when you have small children. Be careful, work on that balance.
So I would echo that as well. We do a lot of traveling. I mean, not as much as you right now, but we do a lot of traveling, and I think that the family thing is always hard. I'm lucky because I get to bring my family with me to a lot of things. It turns them into spoiled little brats sometimes whenever they're like, well, my favorite sushi restaurant is in San Diego. And you're like, oh, God, don't say that around other people. Yeah, right. But I honestly regret, and this sounds like a horrible answer again, I honestly don't regret anything. I think that regret is usually something whenever you end up at a point in your career where you're not happy with where you're at or some aspect of your life. And right now, my biggest problem in life is an overabundance of abundance. And I will take that. That's not something I regret. But I do have one that I don't know how it would have turned out. I'll go back to talking about, I got thinking just in that last question about before Trusted Sec, before Derbycon and all that. I was having a conversation with Dave. I'm not going to say at what point because people might pull the time frame. But I was trying to hire Dave. I don't know if you remember this conversation. And we were talking and I'm like, you can start your own company. It's maddening. It's insane. You're going to lose sleep and you could do this, you could do that. And I remember I got off the phone and I called my wife and I said there was someone that I really tried to hire and I don't think it's going to work out because I think he's going to go his own path. And she's like, well, why don't you just call him up if he's that good? Just offer him part ownership in Black Hills Information Security. And I just came off of a really bad business relationship.
Oh, wait, you're going to give me a partnership in Black Hills?
No.
What?
Dude, anytime, man, anytime.
There's Dave's biggest regret right there.
Yeah.
This still good? Still good?
People will be like, so I decided that I didn't want to do that because I just came off of a really bad business relationship with friends. But I think I do regret that. I should have picked up the phone, called you right back, and said, dude, I'll give you, share the company, half and half, and let's go take on the world. And that would be not necessarily a regret, but that's something that I think would have been awesome. But at the same time, I don't regret it. Because then possibly Trusted Sec would have never happened. Possibly Derbycon would have never happened. Possibly all of this would have never happened. Possibly having another pen testing firm that does amazing work in the industry as a whole would not have happened. And we would have lost a massive voice in the industry of doing good quality work. So no, not a lot of regrets. Just things that I think about from time to time. Oh. What's that? What's this Wild West Hacking Fest that you speak of?
An awesome conference, by the way, that John puts on his team. Heavily recommend that as well. Same awesome vibe, amazing people. Went there last year, would highly recommend it. So check out Wild West Hacking Fest if you enjoyed Derbycon. It is epic. It's an amazing place. I love it there. Thanks, John. And we'll talk later. But
so you got a magic wish in the InfoSec space, or you are able to run the entire world for a year. What is the one big thing you would love to see change because it would make everything else so much better? Is it government, business, education, or is it hardware, software, networking? What is the big thing that you wish was different?
Okay, all right, if I can.
Go ahead, please.
We are desperate in need of people that have passion and drive for this, especially young people. For whatever reason, so many young people just want, no offense to my lawyer friends, why do they want to be lawyers, right? Or television celebrities. I mean, come on. They should be InfoSec professionals. If I had a magic wand or some special inner knowledge, it would be to make high school kids want to be InfoSec pros. We do everything we can. We're not doing it right because we're not getting enough in the funnel. We need literally hundreds of thousands, perhaps worldwide, million-plus people that want to do this, and they're just not materializing. They want to be, reality TV stars. I wish we had a way to fix that. We're trying to make, through gamification, through rapidly increasing salaries, through big conferences, all this kind of stuff. We're trying to make it better, but we're just not getting enough people in the funnel that really want to do this. If you have ideas for how to do that, please share those ideas. Tell me, whatever. We need more people.
Oh, we're in.
Yes.
We're in.
Where's
It's gonna be
Dickerson?
great.
Didn't we have that already?
I think we did.
We did.
Yeah. I'd fix the education pipeline, the the college university pipeline for InfoSec. I'm seeing a lot of problems, and that's one of the reasons I'm running the interview and resume clinic today. Is I'm seeing a lot of problems with people who are coming out of college and getting in InfoSec, and it's sad but true. And a lot of you, I'm probably speaking about some of you who have gotten degrees in InfoSec. You're wonderful people, and you're here, and you're motivated, and you want to learn, and the programs at a lot of universities have failed you. And I hate that, because, look at the student loan debt in the US. You paid thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to get these degrees, and they are not giving the information that you need. And there are a few good programs out there. There are less good programs than there are terrible programs that are ripping people off, and especially master's programs, there's a lot of failure there. I see a lot of people who get InfoSec master's degrees, and they teach them no applicable data at all. And that's not the fault of the people who are getting the degrees. They get a wonderful sales pitch. They are told how they're going to get a job in InfoSec. They're going to make it. This piece of paper is going to really help them get there. And I'm a proponent of higher education. I like things that college teaches you, especially like life skills, soft skills, ability to write reports, ability to present. But you should not be in debt for 20 years for a degree that has failed you in getting into this industry. It should not happen.
All right, I've got two, but I'm going to make them quick, and they're going to be practical. Number one, longer passwords in organizations. Just, for the love of God, if your password complexity is still 8 freaking characters long, well, we would all say thank you.
Yeah.
Have you announced the title of your keynote at Wild West Hackin' Fest?
Not yet. No.
You should announce it. This is an amazing keynote title.
So I'm going to be talking at Wild West Hackin' Fest. Perhaps you've heard of this event. It's coming up. What date is it, John?
The 26th and 27th of October, Ed.
And where is it?
Down in Deadwood, South Dakota.
Where's that?
God,
anyway, so I'm doing a talk. It's called The Top 10 Reasons It's Great to Be a Pen Tester and How You Can Help Fix That Problem.
So that's number one, okay? We don't want to make life awesome for the pen testers at the front of this room. Number two, turn on your goddamn host-based firewalls. Do those two things, and that's practical. Sorry.
Nice.
Question. We'll do one here, and then we'll do one over here, okay?
So just to go back to the mentorship thing for a minute, but from the other side. If you are a rock star, or like me, you're older and have a big ego, how do you try to transmit that knowledge with a limited time budget? Say something on the order of 2 hours a week. What's the most efficient way to do that?
Sure. So Cyber Patriot is great. Also, great. That was awesome. So this is something. There's a lot of people that talk about imposter syndrome, and I still feel that. But I flipped over on the other side. I take an intense responsibility, and I know Ed does as well. We've trained thousands of people. And whenever you see an organization get compromised, I don't look at like an Equifax or a Target and say, oh, those people are idiots and they completely screwed up, because that's wrong. They're dealing with the same crap that you all deal with every single day with compliance and trying to get management to get on board to do the right thing. But I see former students. These people, we know them. We trained them. And I'm now at the point where I'm tired a lot, and also I'm overwhelmed at the number of people that are trying desperately to get something in information security on a regular basis. And Ed does counter-hack challenges and Chris KringleCon and all this stuff. And that's a way to gamify and try to get more people into computer security. And at Black Hills Information Security, we try to do webcasts once a week on a topic, because there's so many people coming into this industry so fast that I feel this intense sense of overwhelming. And do blog posts, do videos. And I know people are like, well, blog posts are stupid, like 4 or 5 people will read it. Who cares? It's 4 or 5 people that read it. And the only way that we're going to turn the tide is if we're all out giving and sharing as much as we possibly can on as big a platform as we possibly can, all the time.
I'm sorry for this in advance, but you, sir, in the DEF CON shirt, tell me a topic in security that you'd like to learn more about. Any topic. Any topic.
Me? Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, you're on the spot. You're on the spot. You can bribe that guy next to you to answer the question if you want to. Any topic you want to learn more about in security.
Soft skills.
Okay. How about you, sir? Anything. Come on, guys.
Web app. He wants to learn how to use a microphone because he just failed at that.
It's hard.
Web app testing.
Awesome. That's how you do it. You go up to people or on the internet, you ask them, what do you want to hear about? What do you want to learn more about? That's how you do it. And I bet if I went through this entire audience and I talked to all of you, you'd have some subject in security you want to learn more about. So if you don't know what to talk about, ask people.
Yep. So one thing I'd recommend is, somebody mentioned Cyber Patriot. Cyber Patriot's an amazing thing. I'm a coach for a local Cyber Patriot team. Just a local high school teacher invites me in. I sit with the kids, a few hours, and it's great fun. You say, but I don't know any, local high school teachers or anything like that. Well, I've got something for you. We do our Holiday Hack Challenge every year, and this year, our Holiday Hack Challenge is centered around something called KringleCon. It's completely free. It's our gift to the community. The folks at CounterHack work thousands of hours on this. We started working on this one. It's for them. It's for the guys over there. Yeah. Could you guys just stand up, please, if you wouldn't mind? So this is the team. All those people are working on Holiday Hack for you. It's those guys. Thank you. So my point is, you can play Holiday Hack yourself. I was talking to some people this morning saying, hey, have you signed up for KringleCon yet? KringleCon.com. And they say, no, I haven't. I don't have time to play the challenges or this or that kind of stuff. Well, first of all, it's a social kind of thing. You can log in. It's a conference, a virtual conference that Santa Claus is hosting at the North Pole. Transportation is provided. You just go there in your browser. And
Lesley just got the network working.
There you go.
Up there.
Nice. And the miners are delighted. So anyway, just go to KringleCon.com. You can sign up for it now, and there's actually some stuff for you to find and hack on it right now. The full thing will be released in December. But my point is, to address your answer, get with some folks nearby you and work. People ask, I got an email the other day, what is the team limit size on Holiday Hack Challenge? There's no limit. I mean, we don't care. We want people to just play and have fun. You can play solo, you can play in a team of 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever. A high school class, maybe you got kids, some of their friends. You can give back in an environment. Every year, Holiday Hack Challenge has a video game that people can play, a set of the highest quality hacking challenges we can make, a custom album that I commissioned. We have Count Ninjala, who's done some stuff for us, Keith Meyer, as well as Dual Core have done music for us, and we're working on the music this year. So and it's social too. You go into this thing, you can chat with other people. So you could use that as your avenue. We provide the environment. You get some people and work to mentor them as they work their way through. You don't have to even do a great job. Just kind of sitting together, having fun during the holiday season, invite some like-minded InfoSec security professionals. And that might be the seed from which, okay, after Holiday Hack is done, you move on to, coaching them and mentoring them on other things.
Hi. Do you guys think the duality of tools will pretty much guarantee that we have jobs for the rest of our lives? Like, so a hammer can hammer a nail, it can bash this gentleman in the head.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
It's all Game of Thrones in here now.
I always envisioned that there could be a renaissance, or someone could redo an operating system. Dan Bernstein made a DNS program that was out before the Kaminsky bug, and already predicted that you could overflow and use up all the connections.
Pseudo-random source ports.
Right. So would we be able to write another operating system, or could we ever make users secure without having to worry about educating them or employing more people in this industry? Not that I want to be unemployed, but could a renaissance or somebody come along and maybe make things better by default?
When I first started in my information security career, I had an office mate at Belcor, and he told me, look, this was 20 plus years ago. He said, in 5 years, we're going to figure this whole thing out. We're going to have strong crypto deployed everywhere. This buffer overflow thing is going to go away because we know how to fix that. We know how to fix all these things. So you better have a second career planned, because this is all going to go away. And here we are 20 some years later, and it still keeps on going. So my gut is eventually there will be some revolution, but it seems to just be delayed forever. So I would never want to predict some sort of limit on human ingenuity, especially when it comes to the hacking community as well as the defensive community. So act as though it's just going to keep going like this forever, because the revolution seems to be permanently delayed.
Small anecdote about, I work in industrial control security, and I don't know, a lot of people don't have a lot of interface with those systems, but the product life cycle for industrial control system is not like the 2 to 5 year PC replacement one. It's like decades. So, I mean, I'm still dealing with Windows 95, Windows 3.1 out there, and in the end of my career, I'll probably still be dealing with Windows 7 and Windows 10. So, when I retire. So, no, that stuff isn't going away. Not only is there the future tech that Ed was talking about, where we just don't know where it's going to go, adversaries are going to advance, users are going to advance, but yeah, it's going to take a long time for just the stuff that we're securing today to go away in the world.
I don't think, from what I've seen, the industry is improving. What I'm seeing is a scattering. It's like what you were just talking about with, you have technologies that are 20 years old that are still deployed. So you see organizations that are still running ancient technologies, and you see organizations that are kind of on that cutting edge that are doing the right things. It's not that we all moved forward, it's just that there's a small percentage that is getting better. And we just went through a little bit of, depunctuated reticulum, where we evolved very quickly because of ransomware. CEOs, COOs, that's immediate, that's visceral. As a human being, we understand it. And then they started implementing more advanced endpoint security. And that was great. That's slowing down because the attackers have now switched over to crypto mining more, and they're not getting that immediate visceral feedback mechanism that they did something wrong. And I'm seeing budgets for really pushing the envelope and getting better security products start to slow down. So we're going to see these ups and downs, but by and large, we see it scattering. We're developing more of a first world, second world, third world model of computer security with organizations rather than everybody improving.
Chime in real quick. I may have a little bit of a different perspective. Look at our younger generation that are in schools right now. They're using Chromebooks, they're using iPads, they're using heavily restricted containers that don't have a lot of access to things. I think that has a lot of promise. However, in corporations, the adoption of that is not going to happen anytime soon. The solutions in a lot of cases are, hey, well, we'll make a more secure operating system. Look at what happened with Windows 10S. Does anybody here use Windows 10S as their desktop in their corporation? Matthew Graber tried to do it, and one of the most technical folks I've ever seen, and couldn't use it as a usable operating system, right? And so the balance between security and usability is still a major concern. Our kids are already dealing with that. In the school district, my kid, he gets a Chromebook, and he sits there, and he only has what he needs access to do his job, to learn and to study. Now, that doesn't mean that you can apply that directly to what we're doing in corporations. But I think there are ways for us to get better in what we're doing, take complexity out of it. And I think as technology is progressing, I think we need to get rid of passwords. We don't need passwords anymore. We don't need to do certain things that we've done traditionally in the past to make it a little bit better. But security is not going to be solved anytime soon. It might just get more complex. And it just may require, like you look at exploit development today versus 10 years ago. It's substantially harder to develop exploits. So we are getting better in a lot of cases, I think. But we still have a long ways to go. And good news is that's job security for our next generation of folks that are coming in as well. So I want to throw it up to one more question here, and this will be the last one before we kick off for lunch break. Sorry for reaching.
Thank you. My question is around DevSecOps, and how, from your viewpoint, how is building security in especially application development? How is that affecting the security market now?
Okay.
Yeah, how's that impacting the security today?
I mean, it's crucial. It's utterly crucial. We're not doing enough of it. Clearly, we're not doing enough of it. And part of that is the higher levels at corporate, they don't want to expend the money. They don't want to expend the right resources to hire DevSecOps people to really build secure designed applications. Yeah, I mean, not a lot to say on that. It's crucial. We're not seeing enough of it. We need more. We need more support and buy-in from senior leadership to get more of those teams and programs out there.
So I like the idea, right? The concept of DevSecOps, where we're building security into the life cycle and we're actually building technologies very, very quickly and knowing that those technologies are going to die very quickly. It's kind of the opposite problem of ISC, right? But the problem with that is technology never dies. So if you build an app, you do so quickly, you build security into it, and then all of a sudden you build another app, and then another app, and then another app. What you're running into as a problem is the complexity of all of these different applications. You may have security built into the development cycle when it was initially built, but it doesn't carry forward. And that's my main concern, is that we're increasing complexity exponentially. We're putting it into the cloud, which no one really understands all that well, and the vendors are saying, trust us, everything behind Kinesis is cool. We've got it. You don't have to worry about security at all. Or we're Google. Trust us. There's nothing you have to worry about whatsoever, citizen. Carry on. So those are my major concerns. The complexity is growing and the visibility is reducing.
I agree that we need to have more of this. I think the way to do it, though, is by making a business argument with business people. And that is to say, look, if we build this stuff and then we get a pen test when it's all done and it shows how crappy it is, and then we have to go and fix it, that's more expensive than building it secure from the start. You need to sit down with your business people and put together something that actually shows that, like a spreadsheet and that kind of, yeah, I don't like that either. But you kind of need to do that and talk in business terms to say this will not only give us more secure stuff, it will do it at a lower cost than doing it the way we've been doing it for years. So I think that's definitely something you want to look at. Business arguments to business people.
All right, well, I want to thank our panelists for their time. Everybody, a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.